something extraordinary just happened in Canadian politics. Another Conservative MP has crossed the floor, not quietly, not reluctantly, but explicitly because of Mark Carney's leadership. And now in just 3 months, Pierre Poilievre has lost 3 MPs from his own ranks. This is no longer a coincidence. This is a trend, and according to political analysts, it is a sign of deeper problems inside the Conservative caucus and a growing attraction toward Carney's vision for Canada. This was supposed to be Pierre Poilievre's moment. He spent months positioning himself as the alternative to Liberal governance.
So I had announced my resignation back in November, largely due to the family reasons, but quite simply couldn't sit on the sidelines after seeing what the Prime Minister was, the ambitious agenda he was undertaking across the country and across the world. And quite honestly, it was the speech in Davos where you took everything head on, and I think for me that's where a lot of the world changed. I think it opened a lot of eyes for Canadians, Albertans, Edmontonians, just how serious this national unity crisis truly is. And it's for me it felt disingenuine and quite simply wrong to be sitting on the sidelines anymore. So I reached out to the Prime Minister's office and will be joining his caucus, and I couldn't be more proud to say this.
Excellent.
He dominated affordability messaging. He controlled the opposition narrative. But today, that narrative has fractured. Because the newest defection is not about scandal. It is not about opportunism. It is about ideological realignment. And that changes everything. Here is Matt Genu, the newest Liberal MP, explaining why he switched teams. He openly admitted that Mark Carney's Davos speech changed everything for him. That it opened eyes. That it reshaped how serious Canada's national moment really is, and, most importantly, that he felt it was disingenuous to sit on the sidelines any longer. That is not political maneuvering. That is conviction. According to reports, he reached out to the Prime Minister's office himself after being convinced by Carney's positioning on the world stage. This is critical because it means Carney is not just managing government. He is reshaping political gravity. What makes this even more explosive is why opposition members are crossing. It is not just domestic policy, it is Carney's international leadership posture. Reports explicitly highlight that his Davos speech and pro-Canada global positioning made the political moment feel more serious and compelling to some Conservatives. This is a rare phenomenon. Opposition members are not being swayed by short-term politics. They are being swayed by long-term strategic direction. And analysts noted that some of Carney's policies are perceived as more center-right than previous Liberal leadership, making them more palatable to Conservative members. That is a strategic crossover zone, and Carney is occupying it. Now consider the volume. Pierre Poilievre has lost 3 MPs. That is a lot. It is not as bad as the Stockwell Day situation, but it is not a good trend for any opposition leader. It also comes during a week where he was forced to defend another Conservative MP, Jamil Javani, who was creating problems by going rogue on issues around Canada-US relations, when Poilievre himself has not addressed those things in a full way yet. 3 MPs leaving is a sign of something. 3 MPs plus Javani is a sign that there is an issue managing caucus. It comes on the heels of that leadership review where everyone thought this has been put to bed, that Poilievre could continue as leader. Analysts are not sure that sentiment is going to stick around anymore, because this will get people thinking. While Carney is expanding influence, Poilievre is being pulled into defensive positioning. Instead of dominating headlines on affordability and inflation, his core political terrain, the narrative has shifted to questions about leadership and caucus stability. Analysts made this point directly. His messaging week has been overshadowed by internal political developments and leadership scrutiny. That is a strategic loss of agenda control. And in politics, losing control of the agenda is often more damaging than losing a single vote. Then came the most politically damaging admission. Analysts stated clearly that Pierre Poilievre has now lost 3 party members, and that is a lot. Not one. Not an isolated defection. 3 opposition members, plus internal issues with rogue messaging and caucus management being openly discussed. This transforms the story from a single crossing into a leadership stability question. Because in parliamentary politics, caucus cohesion is power, and cracks in caucus signal loss of internal confidence. Commentators described this not as an isolated event, but as part of a broader schism inside the conservative coalition. A party struggling to balance regional factions, U.S. relations positioning, and internal ideological tensions. And now facing discomfort among members as Carney carves out a strong pro-Canada positioning internationally. That last point is key because it suggests this is not just about personality. It is about direction. Reports also confirm something politically massive. This floor crossing brings the Liberals 1 seat closer to a majority government, and analysts openly describe the current political environment as potentially historic, depending on upcoming by-elections and further crossings. There are even ongoing rumors discussed on air about the possibility of additional opposition members considering similar moves. If that materializes, the political map changes dramatically. Defense Procurement Secretary of State Stephen Fuhr commented on the news. He said he remembers Matt from the 42nd Parliament, that he quite liked Matt, and that obviously Matt sees what most of them see in terms of this government addressing the priorities of Canadians and acknowledging where they are in the space they all occupy now, that they are in a whole brand new reality over the last year. He thinks Matt recognizes they have got a good plan, and he wants to join the team. What makes this development politically explosive is not just the floor crossing itself, it is the source of the validation. This is not praise coming from Liberal members. This is credibility emerging from within the opposition ecosystem itself. When a sitting Conservative MP openly says that Mark Carney's Davos speech changed his political calculus, that is not routine politics. That is ideological disruption. It signals that Carney's leadership is being perceived not merely as partisan governance, but as a national direction. And that distinction matters. Because in parliamentary politics, crossing the floor is one of the most consequential political acts an MP can make. It risks reputation, it risks voter backlash, it risks long-term career consequences, and yet, despite those risks, opposition members are making that move. Not because of a short-term scandal, not because of internal chaos alone, but because they believe the country is entering a serious moment that requires alignment with a different kind of leadership. That is a profound political signal. It suggests that Carney's appeal is extending beyond traditional liberal boundaries and entering the ideological space that conservatives historically dominated: economic credibility, global positioning, national seriousness. Meanwhile, for Pierre Poilievre, this creates a compounding challenge, because every floor crossing does not just reduce numbers. It raises questions inside the caucus, questions about direction, questions about unity, questions about leadership durability. And once those questions begin circulating internally, the political pressure is no longer external. It becomes structural. This is how political momentum quietly shifts. Not through dramatic speeches, but through incremental realignments of trust, credibility, and confidence across party lines. And right now, that realignment appears to be happening in real time. Mark Carney is not operating like a traditional politician. His brand is being described as not political, driven by higher aspirations rather than tactical maneuvering. And that image is resonating so much so that opposition members are choosing alignment over opposition. Meanwhile, Pierre Poilievre faces the increasingly difficult task of explaining why his own caucus is showing signs of fracture at a time when Carney is consolidating authority, attracting international credibility, and redefining Canada's global posture. 3 opposition members in 3 months is not noise, it is a signal that political momentum is shifting. And in politics, momentum is everything. This is not strength under pressure. This is fracture under scrutiny. This is not confidence. This is damage control. Pierre Poilievre tried to dominate the opposition space. Instead, he is defending his own ranks. Mark Carney did not attack directly, he positioned strategically, and now the Conservative caucus is responding not with resistance, but with realignment. If you want clear, fact-driven analysis on the political shifts shaping Canada's future and the leadership dynamics behind the headlines, make sure to subscribe to Canada Today. We break down the strategy, the momentum, and the real implications that others often miss. Let me know your thoughts below, because this story is far from over.